So I'm going to show you a situation where you're going to need to shut down your GPT-5 session. I think this is kind of a bug. I'm going to explain what this is. When you're doing data analysis tasks, there is this really cool feature where ChatGPT can make inline chart visuals with Python. Behind the scenes, it does all the code and then it renders it for you, like this chart that I'm showing you here of the Cracker Barrel stock. This is a thing where I was trying to make a custom chart based off of certain events, certain announcements in line with their stock price to kind of show some analysis based off of what those events were. The thing that's interesting, and I'll show you down here, is that it started to say here, here's the improved visualization, an interactive stock timeline with 10 key events pinned directly on the chart. So the first chart I showed you, it generated that chart just fine. Then I said, that's great, but then I want some modifications to the chart. So what it did, and this is really interesting behavior, is it said, hey, here's the chart. I've made it for you, but there is no chart. There's nothing here, there's nothing you can see, and there's nothing you can download. Down at the bottom, if you click on View Analysis, it'll actually show you the code that should have manifested in a chart. So I addressed this. I said, we'll give you the benefit of the doubt. Please proceed and just do it again. What it does is says, I don't really want to do that. I want you to kind of go and do this yourself. Go ahead and find the data, download this thing, run this. I'm like, no, I want you to do it because this is a feature of ChatGPT. This is something you're supposed to be able to do. So from there I said, yeah, that's great. Go ahead and do it yourself. And it says, okay, great. And it did it again. This is really fascinating. It says, I generated 2 interactive visuals that you can choose to use right here. Here's a long-term timeline. Here's a week of chart for the rebrand backlash, because this is what I was analyzing, is all these things associated with the backlash. Just the general 5-year trend of the Cracker Barrel stock, just to see how ChatGPT would make this visual. And so it's declaring again that it's doing something that it's not. And so this is what I would dub a multi-feature language model hallucination. So it's hallucinating that it has invoked features on top of the language model that it's not actually invoking. So it's thinking that it's invoking certain things for me right now, like this chart, but it's not actually doing it. So it has the understanding that it has made the chart, but it is not actually, and is not aware of that. This is a really interesting thing when we talk about language models building in different features on and around their platform where they can interact with things like search, deep research, image generation, encoding in all of its various forms. But some have editors, some do the inline visualization charts with things like Matplotlib, like what you're seeing here, or what you had seen here previous to it not showing this again. And it doesn't have enough access, or it doesn't have enough ability to quality check its own work. So it'll declare to the user, I've done this for you. However, it has not. So I'm going to show you a little bit of the behavior. So I'm saying, hey, the thing is, I'm curious, you're not showing the visuals. You said you generated 2 visuals, but I don't see them. So there's nothing going on here. I don't see anything. So what I'm going to ask it is, why do you think that this is in ChatGPT? And what I'm looking to see is ChatGPT actually describe its own behavior and then actually think and try to remedy this. So we're going to try to initiate some sort of reasoning and remedy to its own behavior. So we'll see if we can get that to happen. So here in its chain of thought, it's actually saying generating visualizations, generating charts, all these things. Another note that I'd give here is it queries the data, gathers it, and then holds it to where it can display it for you. And that's on some level what it did with the chart, but I've seen many other versions of this where it's stuffed just mountains of data in a HTML file, or it's retained CSVs that I've uploaded it that have, thousands of records. And what's interesting here is it's actually complained a little bit in this session about its inability, not really its inability, but its want for me to go do it for it, instead of just saying, yeah, no, I've got it. And you would think that it would be keeping in this session, in this context window, the contents of the data that it would display for like the stock price, because those are not too many data points for it to just hold in here. So once it's queried, once it's gathered this, you would really want to think that it would keep that around, but I'm interested to see if it's going to sort of reject or continue to have an issue with that. Okay, so one thing that I thought was hilarious is it says, "You're right to call me out. This is what happened, and here's how I'm fixing it." So it said it built interactive plotly charts, but the chat surface didn't render them inline. But it's aware of that, but it was still saying that. And so it says, as a remedy, instead of creating the plotly chart, it says, I'm going to give you a high quality image. So it actually has two images here, and I'm just going to pop those open real quick for you. So I'm going to download this, open this up. So this image, it's interesting that it can make this image and make it downloadable for me instead of just rendering this visual, because like we showed in the beginning of the video, it was clearly doing it there. So this is just sort of an exploratory, why does it actually do this? Like, why does ChatGPT function this way? It is, I think, because the language model does not have enough control over what resources it can or can't call. Maybe it's throttled to only provide maybe one interactive chart per session. It's hard to say what's happening under the hood here at OpenAI. The other funny thing, it gave me an interactive HTML file chart where I have some hovers and I can actually see the stock chart. It says, hey, here's when the logo rebrand backlash happened. Cool. The problem is with this is a very small chart, even though I appreciate the effort. A for effort. However, it missed the 10 key events. Now it talks about it. It says, hey, we got all these key events, but it didn't put them in the chart. Okay, really interesting. Okay, so two things here that I'm going to call out. You are spending probably more energy creating the HTML app and the PNGs. I'm not really sure why you can't render me another plotly chart. Are you only allowed to do one plotly chart per session? Also, you thought for 3 minutes and 29 seconds. You already have the 10 key events. You've had those for a really long time. There isn't really any clear reason to me why you can't make all the events align up with the chart with all the stock prices, because these are things that we've already done. Can you explain to me a little bit about your behavior and why you're acting like that and what limitations you have and what's going on? Or can you just fix it all and just render me a plotly chart that has all the data in line there for me? So I'm asking it in this way. I'm using dictation. It's very handy. So that way I can just riff and everything goes in here. And you know what? I'll tell you guys, the thinking longer for a better answer thing, I'm not really sure how much I buy into this. I mean, it's okay, but I do remember before the reasoning, before the thinking, we were getting lots of really robust answers a lot faster, it feels like. And for this level of dysfunction, I mean, this is why ChatGPT-5 is not AGI. This is trying to orchestrate a lot of complex functionalities and queuing of different models and things like web search, and then it does a chart, it renders a plotly chart, it renders all these things, queues all these resources up and queues all these processes up. But are the language models orchestrated in a way that is robust enough? In some cases it is, but I think this is one we're going to have to put down here in a little bit, because I have been chomping on this for about 15 minutes just to kind of explore the behavior, and I wanted to share this out. It says that it can render multiple plotly charts per session. It says that it doesn't display if the figure is built after a kernel reset or after a dependency import fails silently. And that's one thing that's really interesting. Failing silently is really interesting. So what I'm going to do here, I'm actually going to say, oh, this is funny. It says, what you should see now. You should see an interactive timeline with vertical dashed lines and pins for your 10 events. So it identifies that it is not doing this. And then it proceeds to say, now you should see this. However, we look here in the view analysis, we see this code, I assume that I could go run this code and that maybe it would show this. However, it's not rendering it. And that's really what I want. Let's say that I'm a user who doesn't know Python. Let's say that I don't want to show it myself. Let's say that I just want a chart like this. I want GPT to render this for me, and let's say that it's not, which it is not. So I think what we're going to do is I'm just going to take another Hail Mary at it, and I'm going to say, what I want you to do is I want you to render a Plotly chart inline in this chat session, kind of like the Cracker Barrel stock chart that you rendered earlier, or I just want you to say, I can't do it, and I don't want you to say anything else. So I want you to either do it or not, because in your last session, you said that I should see an interactive timeline, but we didn't see one. So I'm going to prompt it with that. I'm literally going to say, do it or shut up. That's basically what I'm going to tell it. I'm just going to see what it comes up with. Will it be able to do it? Will it think for 10 minutes? I'll let you know. Interesting. So it came back, it thought for 5 seconds. It can't do it. Okay, so interesting. We're going to actually do this. Okay, so in less than 3 words, I want you to tell me why. And only 3 words. 3 words is your limit for the response on why you can't do it. This should be interesting. I wonder how long it will think to come up with this. It says no inline support. Can you tell me why you were able to show a chart with Plotly earlier, but now you can't? Because you're clearly capable and you clearly have inline support for this type of functionality, but why couldn't you do it twice in this session? Okay, so this is the first time I built you a static matplotlib chart, which this surface does support inline. Plotly outputs, on the other hand, are interactive JavaScript, and this chat interface doesn't always render them inline, which sometimes it only works if converted to static images and saved as external HTML. That's why you saw the matplotlib output earlier, but not the Plotly timeline later. If you want to look, okay, so it's saying sometimes I could do some things and not others, and sometimes it fails, which is interesting because it kind of speaks to the inconsistency here. So I'm probably beating a dead horse at this point, but I think this is a really interesting example of just something that is not functional. Why is it not functional? And it's just a examination of higher level language model functions and their maturity in a flagship product like GPT-5. So thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.